Okay, let's go ahead and knock out our NASCAR logos because we're going to talk about the F1 series. There's my little F1 logo. There it is.
It's boring anyway.
What's that?
The logo, the F1 logo.
Well,
boring.
Yeah. I mean, at least again, I mean, can you come up with a race to race? I just don't understand why they don't do that. Like, what's the problem? Why don't they have why don't they allow these races to at each individual track? I mean, they're promoting it to their people and they should be proud of it. And I'd like to be able to put a nice little logo. So somebody must be preventing them from doing it, because you would think somebody's waving their hand, go, can I create a logo for our race and have it go out to all the magazines and the internet? No logos. We do not allow that here at F1. Just type up the name of the race. That's it. And put F1 logo on there. That's all you can do.
They're very brand conscious in Formula One. And when I say brand conscious, I mean of the brand of Formula One. They have the copyrights locked down so tightly, more so than any other series that I've ever covered by far. So yeah, it's coming from the top, and they want to have F1 be the thing, not necessarily the race itself.
Let's take a look at the F1 futures. Let's see. We haven't looked at those in a couple of weeks. Let's see here. F1 futures. Max is minus 200.
Mm-hmm.
And in Lando is only 135.
Yeah, it's still gonna take a lot.
I mean, doesn't that still seem like a really good wager for Max?
Absolutely. He's looking at the points right now. 62 point lead, Max Verstappen over Lando Norris. And yeah, there are a lot of races to come, and yeah, Red Bull is certainly on the back foot, but Max Verstappen is still scoring points pretty much every single week. And if he's not on the podium, he's still, having the points haul that Lando Norris or whoever the winner is. Last week at Monza, it wasn't Lando Norris that won. Yet again, McLaren balked on their strategy, kind of shot themselves in the foot, which gave the victory to Leclerc. So McLaren continues to give up points. Lando Norris continues to give up points. And as long as Lando Norris is not winning every single week, Max Verstappen's lead is going to only shrink marginally, very slowly. So I still think Max Verstappen at minus 200, despite the fact that he's on the back foot and hasn't won since before the break, is still a good choice on the futures for the championship.
Okay, let's take a look this week. Now, Max won here, was it, they call it Baku, Azerbaijan? Baku. Yes. So he's got one win. Sergio's got 2 out of 3.
Yeah, don't count on that this weekend.
Yeah. And then Hamilton has a win back in 18. Yeah. So that's about it from the
Mercedes. It was interesting when I pulled up the history here. This is a track that's not been on the calendar for a long time. It's a long track. It's almost 4 miles long. It's been on for 7 races, and Red Bull and Mercedes are the only 2 manufacturers to have ever won at this track throughout those 7 races. And you've had a handful of different drivers, but it's always only been Mercedes or Red Bull. And the unique thing about Baku, now I did say a couple of weeks ago that this was one of the 2 weeks where you want to avoid Max Verstappen and Red Bull, because this is one of the tracks where they struggle at. And this track in particular is unique because the vast majority of that 4 miles is very tight and slow. It goes through the old city. There's that castle, very narrow, very hard to pass. But then they've got this massively long straight, which is like Monza, like we saw last week. So you've got to take the downforce off of the cars for that long straight, but you've got to be able to have a car that handles through the slow turns. And I don't think that Red Bull necessarily does well in that respect. So I think this week is one, given the track, and Singapore the following week are going to be 2 that you kind of want to discount Max Verstappen. And if you're looking at the odds, I think Las Vegas has got it right in terms of where they put at least Verstappen. I think I've got some grievances with where some of the other drivers are, but I think where they've got Verstappen is pretty much right on.
I mean, 7-1 for Max. Mm-hmm. He was 1-7 just a couple of months ago at some of these races. Crazy. So even at 7-1, And the way he's going, it's like, nah, it's just not a good time to take him then.
I think, with comparatively, so to your point, we're coming off of Verstappen earlier in the season being -4, -5, right? So if you're going to get somebody that you think has as good a chance to win as Max Verstappen did back then, who is Lando Norris today, and you're going to get Lando Norris at a positive number,
Okay.
I would certainly think about taking that. I
Okay.
wouldn't discount Piastri. You get better odds with Piastri. Piastri is equally as good and equally as capable as winning as Norris. So I think those are your top two choices. We do know that Red Bull is going to likely struggle here. Not to say that Verstappen and Red Bull can pull something out of the hat and end up with a victory, but I think the logical combatant or peer to McLaren to fight for this week's win is going to be Mercedes. So I think George Russell and Lewis Hamilton should be in the picture. But if the odds are still the same from when I last looked at them, because of Ferrari's win last weekend, Charles Leclerc is getting a little bit of a boost, which I don't think is worthy or worth it for Baku. So I think Piastri and Norris are probably your top two choices. Maybe go with McLaren as the team, though. If you go with McLaren as the team, you're going to get negative odds there. But my second choice is probably going to end up being George Russell or Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. You've got Leclerc. Now, maybe the reason why he's 4-1 now is he's coming in with 3 straight poles. Even though the 3 straight poles, he's only led 4 laps.
Exactly right.
That's not good.
And keep in mind, he's getting the bump because he won at Monza. But keep in mind, McLaren should have won that race. They made the call to go on a 2-stop strategy. Ferrari stuck true with their 1-stop strategy, and that gave Leclerc the ability to get in front and lead. I think McLaren, if they would have stayed on the 1-stop strategy, would have had the track position to be able to beat Leclerc and Ferrari. So I think people are reading maybe a little bit too much or maybe a little bit too much optimism into Leclerc and Ferrari's chances this week. Not saying they're not going to be competitive, not saying that Leclerc can't put it on pole, because we always talk about Ferrari having 1 lap speed. The real difference is in the race and the race pace and them being able to manage their tire over multiple stops.
Okay.
Baku, it's going to be hard for them.
And what's interesting is that Lando Norris, Piastri, and Carlos Sainz has never led a lap at this racetrack. All 3 of them. That's crazy. So
yeah, exactly right.
Let's go to Hamilton. These are the 2 that you say these are some long shots that you want to put some money on. Hamilton 11, Russell there at 14. So Hamilton has the win at 18, as we mentioned. Hasn't led many laps over his career there. Matter of fact, after leading 30 laps the year before he won in 2017, he's only led 13 laps. He led 3 laps in his win in 2018, but his average finish is 5.4, so it's very strong there. And you're getting 11-1. As for Russell, he's had some, he's had a couple of good top 10s, which have come in the last 2 years. Another driver that's never led a lap here, though, but you're getting 14-1, as opposed to some of those drivers that have never led a lap that are odds almost cut in half.
Exactly right.
Okay.
If you're not going to go with the McLaren, I would go for one of the long shot Mercedes. Probably pay attention to qualifying, because unless you really trim that car out for that long straight, it's all about how you manage your tires through that twisty part, which is the majority of the lap. And track position means a lot pretty much every week in Formula One. Baku, no different, certainly with the tight majority of the track going through the old town.
And they have the team props. The race-winning car, McLaren, is -150. Ferrari is +250. And Mercedes 6-1. There you go. Red Bull at 7-1. But again, that's pretty much just max every week now. So yeah. I mean, would you even wager on this?
I would go for Mercedes if you can't choose between Hamilton and Russell. That way it cuts your odds in half, but you get both of them in the basket.
It's not bad.
So if you want that route, probably go with Mercedes. Otherwise, I might split my bet. If you're going to go with the favorites in McLaren, maybe split my bet a little bit between Piastri and Norris, put the majority on Norris, and then hedge a little bit with Piastri.
All right. Next up, next week, it's going to be Singapore.
Another spot that Red Bull has stuck a giant egg at. Yeah, they've never gotten their car to work right at this track. So it should be interesting next couple of weeks for Red Bull.
And that's the first day of autumn. How about that?
Exactly right.
So,
and this season, crazy, this season goes into December now. The longest season in Formula One history was well into December, or at least into the beginning of it.
Just yeah, crazy. They're going to take, after Singapore, they take a break, their last long break, don't they, until Texas?
Yep. The race after Singapore is Coda. Yep, exactly right. And then they kind of do their, what is it? I don't want to Western Hemisphere swing with Mexico and Brazil in there in Las Vegas, and then they head to the Middle East to finish it out very beginning of December. So Qatar is the second to last race on December 1st, and then the last race of the year is Abu Dhabi, December 8th. But they've got 4 races in the Western Hemisphere after Singapore, 2 of which are in the United States.
Don't forget to check out when we post this, obviously when you're watching it, we'll have a link in the description. So that's when we'll probably put it together. I guess what Friday is it?
Yep, I'll try to have it by Friday. Should be able to even maybe get it for Thursday ahead of Friday practice, hopefully.
Okay. So, well, you'll know because you'll be watching the video. And then if you want to check out our NASCAR coverage, that'll be available. By the way, this show goes right on to our one of our channels, and then we will split them up either Thursday or Friday for F1, NASCAR as well at some point, probably tomorrow, and then our starting lineup show comes on Saturday for NASCAR. All right, CJ, excellent. We got that done pretty quickly. So
sounds good.
Yeah, it's football season. So
gotta be efficient with football season.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you again next week.